Joining us today in the studio is the youngest Knesset member in the Likud party, Sharren Haskel, to discuss the ongoing violence in Israel and how the world can combat anti-Semitism. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for inviting me.
So to begin, in recent weeks, terror has been striking Israel. We've seen these last devastating attacks in the past week specifically. Do you see any solution to this?
We need to understand that these waves of terror comes every few years. It happened now. It happened when I was in the army. That was the time of the second intifada, where there was a huge, violent, intifada with explosive people who are committing suicide bombing on buses, in restaurants, in bars. And it keeps on going through our history all the way back, to 1929 and further in. And so I think looking at the Israeli-Palestinian conflict through these glasses, understanding that the base of this conflict is a cultural and a religious one, and then it's got many other layers, is the first way to deal with those waves of terror. Now, when these riots just started, and let me just remind you, there were, hundreds of young, Palestinians in the streets throwing rocks and Molotov bottles and demonstrating. And within a few weeks, we saw that dying down. It didn't take very long. And so I think from what we've experienced in the last few weeks, there was a die down of the violence and the terror attacks. And so I think it comes to the end of it. Saying with that, it doesn't mean that it will immediately stop, because we do know that these come and go. The way to really stop it is, I think that the Palestinian Authority have to take the leadership in their hand. Stop promoting violence and murder. Stop inciting the younger generation. Come and spread the word of peace. The true meaning of coexistence. Only then, when their leadership starts, making those terrorist heroes and naming after them schools and making statues for them in the streets and naming streets after them, then the younger generation will understand that they're not the heroes, and we'll be able to maybe bridge a little bit the gaps.
So I want to talk about that younger generation and specifically Facebook. But first I have a question for you. We've seen in response to these terror attacks, the Israeli government is now expanding Jewish settlements, or wants to expand Jewish settlements within the West Bank and East Jerusalem. And they've been attacked by both the United States and the European Union for doing this. And they're essentially saying that Israel is not trying to achieve a two-state solution by, in fact, enhancing these settlements. Is that fair to be saying?
No, not at all. I think that we disagree. I believe, and many other parliament members and many more citizens of Israel believe, that we have the right to develop and build Israel in the south, in the north, and in Judea and Samaria. I mean, let's take, for example, what's happening now around Judea and Samaria. Why does it happen? What's the true cause of that? Palestinians and Israeli don't see each other. When we created in the Oslo Accord those physical borders, we also created social and cultural borders where we don't meet each other. We don't speak together. Before that, you would be able to go to Ramallah and Shechem and to Gaza, to the markets. And the Palestinian Authority used that and poisoned minds of Palestinians as well against Israelis. Invested in terror attacks against Israelis during those times. And what happened is this huge gap of hatred and violence that was built up. How do we bridge that? We bridge that by meeting, by living one next to another. When Israel's expanding or building settlements or towns all around Judea and Samaria, what do? The Palestinian Authority, with all the money that was invested there, they didn't really invest it in the benefit of the Palestinians. We know that most of it went to terror, went to the pockets of the Palestinians' leadership or their friends. Was it invested in infrastructure, sewage, road, water, electricity to the people, and a sustainable economical system for the Palestinian people? A good education system? No. It was invested in completely other agendas. And so what happens when Israel's constructing there, we don't just build towns, we build road to get there. We renew roads that not just Israelis are using, but Palestinians are using as well. We build infrastructure like sewage system, electricity, water. We build industrial areas. What are these industrial areas? You can see there Palestinians and Jews, Palestinians and Israelis working side by side. That is the only thing that is going to bridge this gap of violence and hatred. You see them meeting each other, knowing each other's families, going to each other's celebrations. You know, the Palestinians that work there, they actually get sometimes even 5 times more money than they would get in the Palestinian Authority. And that gives them the capability to provide for their children, give them education, bring food to the table. And so their children are not occupied with terror or violence or hatred.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about young people right now and what we're seeing in Facebook and on social media. This 13-year-old child that was stabbed to death in her bedroom in Kiryat Arba, a Jewish settlement in the West Bank, was attacked by a 17-year-old Palestinian who had posted on Facebook right beforehand that he wanted to become a martyr for the Palestinian cause. Now we see the public security minister in Israel who is essentially accusing Facebook of sabotaging Israeli security by not stopping incitement. Is it fair to be blaming Facebook for not helping Israel?
I think that the social media is still something new, still something that we're learning as well. We do know that there's a lot of violent and inciting pages who promote this kind of violence on Facebook, on Twitter, and many other social medias. And we need to learn how to deal with that as well. Saying that, I think that Facebook needs to have the right intentions in sitting down with the Israeli government, and finding a proper solution for this problem, because we do understand that this hatred is spreading through social media. I mean, even if it's a thing like a button to report a violence on your page, that Facebook remove it and then they review it to see if there's an inciting or something that might risk someone else's life. And so I think we have to sit down, some of the officials, the military and the police, with Google, with Facebook, and anyone that's in charge of social media, and find a proper solution to keep our citizens safe, not just here, but all around the world.
Well, let's hope that they're willing to sit down with the Israeli government to go over these issues. Thank you so much for coming in. It was a pleasure having you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.